Howdy everyone, I'm that dude over there, and I need to clarify that this video isn't looking for the greatest signature weapon across the series, or comparing what weapon is the best across the series titles. Today, we are constructing the ultimate legendary weapon from signature weapons across the series. We'll be looking at the greatest weapons throughout the game, and unite them into one singular weapon. This will be the most busted weapon across the series, and I hope you enjoy just how broken it gets. Now, we need to lay out some ground rules, otherwise we might end up adding too many weapons into the pile. We're just going to focus on the main characters for the series, taking their signature weapons and uniting them. After we gather all the weapons, we will find the averages for their stats of our new blade, and see what crazy effects it has. Also, I'll only be counting a weapon once, so in situations like Gaiden and Shadow Dragon, we'll be taking all the effects that the legendary weapon holds in said game. Stat-wise, we'll be taking the strongest weapon of the stats. Trust me, it just makes it easier. That way I'm not adding 15 different falchions. Oh, and I'm not touching side games. I don't want to complicate things by adding a Banana Lord's weapon or Itsuki's weapon. So let's start where it all began, falchion. This specific version of falchion appears in 4 different games: Shadow Dragon and the Blade of Light, Mystery of the Emblem, Shadow Dragon for DS, and New Mystery of the Emblem. Despite these different games, 2 things stay the same about falchion. 1, that it's effective against dragons, and 2, it restores the user's HP. To what degree we'll talk about later, but let's dive into the stats. Falchion's strongest form comes from the DS titles, where it bears 12 might, 100 hit, with no crit chance. Falchion is also an infinite durability weapon, meaning that Marth can swing it all he wants without repercussion. While the weight differs between New Mystery and Shadow Dragon, I decided to go with 8 for the weight for simplicity reasons. Now, I already mentioned that the weapon is dragon slaying, but the healing effect is a bit crazy, because there are 4 versions of this effect. We'll add all the healing effects together and divide by 4 to get our estimated healing effect. Alrighty, so in Shadow Dragon and New Mystery, falchion can be used as an action to restore 10, basically acting as an infinite vulnerary. Alright, Mystery of the Emblem has no recovery effect. Okay, and Blade of Light says all HP. Now, I can't confirm how true this is because one wiki only says restore HP, and I don't know what that's supposed to mean. But another says all, which is a huge jump from the 10 we were working with. Since I can't find another source on this, let's add all this and divide. Alright, so 10 plus 10 plus 0 plus infinity. Guys, my calculator is still processing. Never mind. Yeah, so starting off with our infinite healing when used. Next is falchion. I understand what you're thinking, didn't we just do this? Yeah, but you see, Gaiden and Echoes are considered side games to Shadow Dragon, basically taking place between New Mystery and Shadow Dragon. It's why Katria, Paula, S, and Camus, or whatever he goes by in these games, Zeke I think, also appear here. My point is that Alm's falchion is not the same as Marth's falchion. Anyway, unlike Marth's falchion, Alm's falchion is the exact same stat-wise to his remake version, except in one category: weight. Across both games, falchion is a 10 might sword with 80 hit and no crit. But in Echoes, the weight is 1, and in Gaiden, the weight is 0. I didn't want to do the math, and because it would be really funny, I decided to just give this falchion no weight. When it comes to effects, Gaiden gives falchion the ability to passively heal 5 HP while being effective against monsters. That's pretty standard considering the falchion prior. However, Echoes blows up the falchion with some interesting new skills. For one, instead of monsters, falchion is now effective against God. That's right, God. I knew this weapon was gonna be busted. Besides that, falchion grants renewal. Renewal has a wide range of healing, early games doing 5 to 10 HP, and newer games doing 20 to 30% of the total HP. So again, rather than do math, I just decided to keep it at 5 and spare myself the suffering. And the last thing that this version of falchion gives is the ability Sense Scale. Now I know that this ability is exclusive to Alm, but this weapon's already going to be busted moving forward, and I'm not stopping just because Destiny chose this moss-headed freak as their savior. Sense Scale increases the user's damage by 25% in exchange for 7 HP. Now this is a lot to add, but before we move on, we have one more weapon to add from these games. In Gaiden and other games moving on, we'll occasionally run into multiple protagonists. In cases like these, I need to add a new rule so that way we don't go adding Soth or Soniki to the list. And that rule is they need to have a proof weapon and the character needs to be available for at least a third of the game. And Celica fits both of these conditions. The problem we run into though is if Celica's proof weapon is Ragnarok or Beloved Zofia. Ragnarok is available in both Gaiden and Echoes, however Celica shares this spell with one other person, Delthea. So what, Beloved Zofia takes a spot? Well, Beloved Zofia only appears in Echoes and not Gaiden, and it doesn't feel right to give Celica a weapon that only exists in one version of the game. I don't know what to do here, but then I remember Celica also appeared in Fire Emblem Heroes. So if I can track back Celica's first weapon that she was brought in with, then we can find what was her signature weapon. And what do you know? She appears in Fire Emblem Heroes with Ragnarok first. And because of this, we decide to go with Ragnarok. Now, the only effect of Ragnarok is that it costs 10 HP to use. So going forward, the only drawback to our weapon is that no matter what you use it for, it will cost 10 HP to do. But beyond that, the strongest version of Ragnarok doesn't come from Echoes, but Gaiden. In Echoes, Ragnarok is a 1-2 range weapon with 20 might, 95 hit, and 14 weight. While this seems really good and also gives our weapon the ability to attack at range, the Gaiden version is much stronger. In Gaiden, Ragnarok is 24 might, 100 hit, for the price of 20 weight. I guess Celica is picking up the slack for both her and Alm when it comes to weight now, isn't she? But with that solved, we skip New Mystery and move on to the Jugdral saga, starting with Genealogy of the Holy War. The only weapon we can add from this game is Tearfang, the legendary weapon that Sigurd and Seliph use. And before you say, oh, but what about Julia? Julia's pretty important to the game and appears in over a third of the chapters. My argument is that all of the characters we presented so far has had a lose condition if they died. Julia doesn't. In fact, Julia can die at any point in the game, and will return to the player in the end game regardless. So if I need to add a new rule that says that they have to be tied to a lose condition, then so be it. God, I feel like me saying this is going to bait more entries than I initially thought. Anyway, Tearfang. Tearfang is our first non-destructive weapon with 50 uses. This won't matter in the long run because of the falchions, but whatever. It yields 30 might with 80 hit and 7 weight. When Tearfang is equipped, it boosts the user's skill and speed by 10 points, and their resistance by a whopping 20. Whoever happens to wield this monstrosity will be a mage killer, let me tell you what. This sword also grants the holder the prayer skill when equipped, which is just the modern day miracle skill. From there, we jump to Thracia with Leaf. Leaf is better known with the Light brand as his signature weapon, but I decided to go with the Bragi Blade instead. It's his endgame weapon and it's much better than the early Light brand. So what does the Bragi Blade do? Well, the Bragi Blade is a 60 use weapon with 15 might, 70 hit, and 12 weight. Like Tearfang, it grants Miracle, but it also gives the holder effectiveness against armored units. On top of that, it also negates the effects of the Lopter Sword. I could just leave it at that, but I want to see exactly what the Bragi Sword negates to add to the list. The Lopter Sword allows the wielder to have the attack of their foes, and grants an additional 20 magic to its holder. So what I'm understanding is that the Bragi Blade inflicts minus 20 magic on its foes, and grants immunity to attack reductions. Man, this blade really hates magic units. From here we jump to Alib to inscribe the effects of Roy's Binding Blade, Eliwood's Blazing Sword, and Hector and Lid's weapons. The Sealed Sword is Roy's 18 might 1-2 range weapon with 20 uses. It has 95 hit and it's the first of its kind to have a crit chance, that being at 10%. Returning to form, the Sealed Sword is effective against dragons and can be used to restore HP. These effects don't matter much since we already have this twice already with the unlimited healing of Falchion. The trio at least brings something new to the table. While Sulcati, Armads, and Durandal are all effective against dragons, when they're equipped, they grant the holder additional stats. Armads, while heavy with 18 weight, has 18 might and grants 5 additional defense when equipped. Solkati, while weak with its 12 might, has a 25 crit chance and grants additional resistance while equipped. And Durandal, while grants the holder additional strength when equipped. Am I missing something here? Alright, hold on. Before you say anything in the comments, I want to address that the Seal Sword also grants 5 to both defense and res. So, yeah, I was a bit of an idiot here. Sorry, Roy. Next is the Wonder Twins from Magvel, Ephraim and Erica. I decided to go with these two only since the other weapons in the game that could be associated with the other lords, theoretically anyone could use. Erica and Ephraim wield the Thunder Sword Sieglind and Flame Lance Siegmund. Sieglind is your standard one-range proof weapon with 16 might and 90 hit. Siegmund is like Sieglind, but trades 1 more point in power for 10 points in accuracy. They take the trend of the last few lords and adds an additional 5 points of stats when they're equipped. However, they both share the effect of raising its holder's strength by 5 and granting effectiveness on monsters. This would be original if Alm didn't already do this. Moving to the Telia Saga, we have 3 characters to cover. These units are Ike, Micaiah, and strangely Alencia. Soniki only arrives in the last fourth of the game, which excludes her from the running, and similar to the Lords of Magvel, Soth's weapon to contribute can be used by anyone, so he doesn't count either. Alencia is available in her own section in the game, along with Part 4, and while I don't want to include her, I kinda have to, I guess. So starting with our Royal Highness, Amity is a 15 might weapon with 12 weight and 90 hit. While unimpressive at first, it grants the user an additional 3 defense and resistance while equipped. Oh, and it's also a brave weapon. Brave weapons in Fire Emblem allow the user to double the attack opportunities. So instead of attacking once, they'll attack twice before the enemy. Ragnall, the signature weapon of Ike, is an 18 might weapon that is heavier than the Armads with 20 weight. However, to compensate for its heaviness, it has a built-in critical of 5 and grants the holder an additional 3 defense when equipped. But I'm not finished yet. Not only is this weapon 1-2 range, being able to counter most anything in the game, it also negates critical hits thanks to Path of Radiance. Man, with such strong weapons that Alencia and Ike have to offer, Micaiah must be the strongest of them all, right? Well, no. See, the strongest weapon Micaiah will be able to use for Radiant Dawn is Rexora. However, Rexora is a weapon that anyone can use, so is she cut out from the list? Well, no, because she does have one weapon that's exclusive to her. It's Thani. The tome that's equivalent to a rapier, with 8 might, no crit, and 100% chance to hit, making this probably the weakest weapon on the list. But after skipping over some remakes of Marth's game, we enter a new age of Fire Emblem, that being Awakening. The characters we would use for this would be Chrom, Robin, and Lucina. Lucina is a major character, while Chrom and Robin have death flags connected to their characters. However, Lucina's weapon is literally Chrom's weapon, so I'm not going to include it. And Robin doesn't have a signature weapon since anyone can wield Thoron. Chrom gets his moment to shine, however, rocking out with the Exalted Falchion. Chrom carries a 15 might weapon with 80 hit and a 10% chance to crit. Like before, it can be used to heal himself and does effective damage to dragons. Now, Fates is an interesting scenario. Besides not having a name to its continent, the game is divided into 3 variants: Pokemon Family version, Pokemon Conquest version, and Pokemon Golden version. Each of these routes have unique stories, and to encompass each of their games to one weapon is pretty unfair, so instead what we'll do is give each route one weapon. This way, each route is represented. However, Corrin will not be the face of every route. I know he gets 3 different Yatos across the routes, but the one from Revelations is just the combination of the other 2. The Omega Yato, also known as the Fire Emblem, is another main Lord sword with 16 might, 80 accuracy, and oh yeah, Fates got rid of weight. I guess I'll mark them all with 0 weight then. Anyway, the effects of the Omega Yato are a bit long, so here goes. For 1, as long as a weapon is in your inventory, you get an additional 4 points in strength, speed, defense, and resistance. When you actually decide to use it, you get 10 crit avoid. On top of that, when fighting foes with the dragon skin skill, you deal 3/4 damage instead of half damage. It's only now when typing this that some people are going to hear this and hear a bunch of random numbers and stupid effects. But that's okay, because next we're talking about the Lobster Lord's weapon, Raijinto. Raijinto is an 11 might weapon with 1-2 range, 80 hit, and 10 crit. While equipped, it grants 1 additional point in speed. However, while it's in your inventory, it grants the holder 4 strength at the expense of 1 point of defense and res. Siegfried, Xander's signature weapon, has the same stats as Raijinto, but with a different effect. Siegfried grants 10 avoid while equipped and passively buffs the user's defense by 4. I could throw Leo and Takumi onto this list, but this list is already bloated as is, and 3 Houses hasn't even shown up yet. Speak of the devil, from Fodlan, we run into a similar problem as in Fates. Since all 3 routes are technically different, with different bosses and stories for the most part, we'll copy what we did last time there. And starting with the Heartless Demon, we begin with the Sublime Creator Sword. With the Spine of Sothis, the Creator Sword has 15 might, 90 hit, 10 crit, 1-2 range, and 17 weight. Now when addressing the relics that are used in 3 Houses, we have to address the elephant in the room. When using a relic weapon without the proper crest, the holder takes damage from the weapon, assuming they don't turn into a beast, and they can't use the combat arts associated with them. For this scenario, we're just going to assume that whoever has this weapon, also for whatever reason, bears the 4 different crests just so we can ignore this stipulation and move on. They'll have like 2 days to live, but who cares since we can add all the crests into the pile as well. The Crest of Flames gives the user a chance to restore 30% of damage dealt. Along with that, it can also have a chance to preventing counterattacks and rarely boost might. I'd assign a number to this, but there was no number when looking at Sereness Forest, and I don't care enough to continue looking elsewhere. We also get access to Ruptured Heavens, which gives the user 7 plus 0.03 times their magic stat, along with 10 hit and crit for the small price of 3 weapon uses. But since our weapon doesn't have weapon uses, we'll pull an Echoes and take from the HP stat instead. Oh no, math in a Fire Emblem game, whatever shall I do? Moving on, we get 2 of the most controversial lords in the series, with Dimitri and Edelgard, and their weapons, Eredbar and Amir. Eredbar is a 19 might weapon with 75 accuracy, 10 crit, and 9 weight. Amir is a 24 might weapon, second strongest weapon next to Tearfang, with 60 accuracy, 20 crit, and 11 weight. With these weapons, we not only get access to the Crest of Ceres and Bladed, but we also get Atrocity and Raging Storm combat arts. For 5 HP, Atrocity will give the user an additional 15 might and 20 hit. However, for 3 HP, Raging Storm will allow the user to move again so long as their attack connects. This was balanced by Amir's low hit and 20 uses, but something tells me that with our weapon, it's going to be insanely broken. The Crest of Ceres has the occasional chance of making our skills, like Sense Scale or Atrocity, gain more power. Meanwhile, the Crest of Bladed occasionally boosts our attacks and the cost for our skills, meaning that the 7 HP that we use to trigger Sense Scale could double to 14 HP with increased power. Now to bring up the lore that will change the most to our weapon, Claude von Regan with Failnaught. At first glance, Failnaught seems like your typical weapon. It has less might than Eredbar and Amir with 18 might, but with equal hit to Eredbar and equal crit to Amir. But where it stands out is not its 9 weight, but its range. Failnaught is a 2-3 range weapon, meaning that our new weapon has a range of 1-3, slightly less than that of an archer from Echoes. But the fun doesn't stop there. The Crest of Regan sometimes heals up to 30% of total damage dealt by skills. In combination with Raging Storm and the Crest of Bladed, the holder will restore more HP than what they're losing probably. Not only that, but with Failnaught's signature skills, Fallen Star, the user can attack a unit with 10 additional might, crit, and 30 avoid for 4 HP, and that's not including the one-time bonus of avoiding an enemy's attack on enemy phase. Who knew the 3 Houses Lords had the best abilities when you throw them in a pot and mix them all around? But leaving Fodlan, we get our last weapon from Elios as we enter Engage. So what is the weapon we get from Engage? Is it crazy powerful like the Fodlan Quartet or Tearfang? Is it some crazy passive thing like the Fates Trio? Well, not exactly. So first I thought the weapon we'd be using was Wild Glands. It's a divine dragon weapon only, meaning Alir was the only person who could use it. You know, outside of like Vale or something. The sword itself is unimpressive with 12 might, 70 hit, 10 weight, and 1-2 range. But then I looked through the list of swords on Serenus Forest and came across a different version of Liberation that I hadn't seen before. For those who didn't know, Liberation is Alir's signature sword. He gets it at the very beginning of the game, and it just kind of sits in the inventory. Like Lens, it's not that impressive, but jumping down to its Fel Xenologue variant, I was shocked to find it having higher stats than the original. Now I don't know the context to this since I haven't played Engage's Xenologue chapters, but just going off of that, we'll add a Liberation with its 18 might, 90 hit, and 2 weight. It also grants an additional 15 to 30 attack when attacking, but that's only when fighting a single character, and unlike the Bragi Blade where I can look at the thing it's contesting and wrap its ability back in, I can't do that for Liberation. It's literally a character from the looks of it. They're in the form of a final boss like Sombron, so why should he get a flat attack buff for no reason? Here, we'll compromise. Instead of not getting the buff, you'll only get the buff if you're fighting that specific character in Engage. So with our weapons gathered, let's see the unholy creation that we have made. Without further ado, I present Falkrati Birbidasaro, Saragnathamix Rasi, Omkra Marfali, or Falkrati for short. Falkrati is an unlimited use 16 might weapon with an average hit of 85. It has 5 crit, 1-3 range with a weight of 9. Because of the weapons used, when attacking at range, Falkrati targets the lower of the target's defense or res. It's effective against everything under the sun, including God, and no matter the action, costs 10 HP to use. While in the user's inventory, it casually restores 5 HP per turn and buffs the holder's stats, 8 strength, 7 defense, 4 speed, and 3 resistance. It also bestows the effects of the Crest of Flames, Saros, Bladed, and Regan. However, should the holder actually use Falkrati, their stats will rise dramatically, giving them a total buff of 15 strength, 18 defense, 10 skill, 10 speed, 10 avoid and crit avoid, and a whopping 34 resistance. Along with this, they will be immune to attack cuts, negate critical hits, gain miracle, and inflict minus 20 on the foe's magic stat.
Stop! He's already dead!
But I'm not done yet!
Falkrati can be used in many more ways than just restoring all your HP if you wanted. Falkrati can attack with multiple combat arts. Ruptured Heavens, Send Scale, and Atrocity for flat damage, Raging Storm to ensure another action, or Fallen Star for avoiding tough foes. All this to say, this would still get power crept by Fire Emblem heroes. This was a fun experiment and I'm glad I did it. This was the best I could come up with, and if you would like to see more, or tell me about a weapon I missed, let me know in the comments below. And while you're down there, leave a like and subscribe as it helps idiots like me who suck at promoting videos. And until next time, stay safe out there.